the Arizona Diamondbacks have lost 3 games in a row and have fallen not out of the wild card spot, but are now tied with the Pittsburgh Pirates for the third and the Pittsburgh Pirates for the third and final wild card spot in the National League. The Diamondbacks, like we covered on Thursday's podcast, had an incredible opportunity to win a series against the Nationals and gain a tiebreaker over them. And then if they won the series against the Pirates, win the tiebreaker or at least get the tiebreaker, hopefully at least be tied with the Pirates, and then hopefully win the tiebreaker scenarios because they have a really good record against the National League West because of their domination over the Colorado Rockies and San Francisco Giants. Unfortunately, the Diamondbacks, after winning the first game against Washington on Friday, lost the final 2 games of the series, 5-3 and 10-7. The Diamondbacks shuffled the shuffled the lineup. They now have Ketel Marte hitting in the 4th spot, Carroll leading off, Perdomo hitting 2nd, and Gabriel Moreno hitting 3rd. So far, it has not worked out in the Diamondbacks' favor at all. Offense struggled against the Nationals. Honestly, in all three games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, although Sunday they were able to get some solo shots and score 7 runs, albeit 2 of those runs coming in the top of the 9th inning when the game was mostly out of hand. So the Diamondbacks offense struggled on the road, and it wasn't just the offense that struggled, it was the pitching as well. 2 losses against the Nationals in their 2 losses against the Nationals, it was Mitch Bratt and it was Cole Drake who both struggled. Both gave up 5 runs apiece in less than 5. It was 4 and 5 inning starts respectively. So not great there. The Diamondbacks were behind the 8 ball in both games, except for the 10-7. They were up 4-2 in the game in Sunday's game, and then I think it was Cole Drake. Yeah, it was Cole Drake in that start. He gave up 2 runs in the 5th inning. He was taken out, and then Johnny Lasagna, Jonathan Loaisiga gave up 2 runs in that inning as well. The Nationals offense was just too much for the Diamondbacks this series, and they just made more. They just made more plays, got more hits with runners in scoring position, had more power. CJ Abrams was the best player on the field. It was pretty apparent how much better he was than anyone else on the Diamondbacks team. And then Wood also had a great series. So Diamondbacks ultimately lost that series and then followed up their loss to Nationals with a 3-2 loss in extra innings. In the 10th inning, they lost to the Pirates. Merrill Kelly pitched very well. The bullpen held it down until the box score. Yeah, until Taylor Clark gave up. The game-winning run in the bottom of the 10th inning. So overall, not a great weekend for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Right now, they are tied with the Pittsburgh Pirates for that 3rd and final wild card spot at 55 and 52, but they're going to need a big week to get back into wild card contention. And if you're looking at this from a glass half full perspective, you say, hey, Diamondbacks just need to figure out the pitching holes on the roster. They need to figure out how to replace Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt with another starting arm or a couple starting arms that have more major league experience. But the Diamondbacks also have Michael Soroka, Ryan Nelson, Zach Gallen, and Corbin Burns all on IL. And so what happens when any of those guys come back? what happens to the guys you traded for? Where does everyone go? And then you look at the bullpen, and yes, they definitely need another left-handed arm. Brandon Garcia got allowed 3 runs in his 1 inning or 1 1/3 innings of play on Sunday. It was really the second time this season that we've seen him struggle. Uh, he had like a 14 game streak where he had only allowed like 4 hits and no runs. He was on a tear, so him getting rocked by the Nationals, it was kind of overdue. It was definitely overdue for this Diamondbacks team, or for him at least, to have a bad outing. But overall, he's still the Diamondbacks' best reliever. He's their youngest and best reliever on the team, I would say right now. Unfortunately, Jonathan Loaisiga has not pitched very well recently. We've seen Paul Sewald kind of backslide recently. We've seen Ryan Thompson unable to unable to get guys out. Just a lot of hard hit balls when guys are facing Thompson. Ginkel's even been a little up and down over the last month. So we're seeing this Diamondbacks bullpen that was playing so good before the All-Star break. Seems like they're coming back down to more of where we kind of expected this bullpen to be coming into the season, which was below league average. And that's kind of where they've been recently. And it has been one of the reasons why they haven't been able to win baseball games, unfortunately. So, what do the Diamondbacks do? Should they still buy at the deadline? I think Mike Hazen wants to buy at the deadline, so I believe the Diamondbacks will buy the deadline, but should they? I don't know. I don't know if it's worth. I don't know if this team, and it showed against the Nationals, and it showed against the Pittsburgh Pirates so far, that I don't know if this team, if they buy, if they buy, is it going to make a difference? Because they're, even if they buy, are they going to be able to are they going to be able to outscore teams like Washington and teams like Pittsburgh, who have two of the best offenses in baseball? Are they going to be able to find enough offense on the market at the trade deadline to be able to compete with those two teams for the final wild card spot? Is someone gonna catch Philadelphia, and are they gonna continue to lose their way into the final wild card mix? And is someone gonna overtake them? The Diamondbacks have a lot of holes, and the holes are obvious, but are there too many holes on this Diamondbacks roster right now because of the injuries? So right now we have Corbin Burns on the IL. We have Ryan Nelson on the IL, who we expected to be a big time contributor to the rotation this year. We have Michael Soroka on the injury list. He was the Diamondbacks' second best pitcher this entire season before he went on the IL. And you have Zach Gallen, who has been a franchise cornerstone pitcher, but has completely fallen off the rails. He's on the IL. So losing him hasn't been a loss, but it's the other three guys where that's a lot of talent to try and replace at the trade deadline. And especially if you are hoping that these guys can come back this season, especially Soroka and Corbin Burns. Like, wow, if you give up more young prospects and you bring in another pitcher, like what are we doing? I mean, Zach Gallen is on a 1-year deal, so maybe the Diamondbacks don't bring him back and he's immediately out of the rotation, and whoever they trade for will start in Gallen's spot. But then you still have Brandon Pfaadt, who's been pitching really well, and you have Ryan Nelson, who's pitched well as a starter throughout his career, plus Michael Soroka, Corbin Burns, and Eduardo Rodriguez. So there's 5 already that you have on the team that you feel pretty good about if they're all healthy. And then you have the bullpen that you need to consider. Is it still going to be the good bullpen that it was in the first half of the season? Right now, I don't think so. I think teams have kind of figured out, and they're going against really good offenses that are going to be able to knock in a lot of runs on these guys, whether it's Paul Sewald, Ryan Thompson, Jonathan Loaisiga. We've seen Taylor Clark get bounced around recently. We even saw Brandon Garcia get knocked around recently as well. So what does that look like for the Arizona Diamondbacks? And then we haven't even gotten to the offense, where they're still not doing great. They're still not getting great production at first base. We've seen Vargas have an uptick. We've seen Tyler Locklear have an uptick. We've seen Tim Tawa have an uptick in production. But are any of those guys truly the answer at first base? I don't think so. And if you're just trading for a first base rental, for going into if you're just trading for a rental who you'd have to re-sign at the end of the season, is that worth it? Because you're just in the exact same place if you don't re-sign that guy next year. So try and find a first baseman, but you're just going to run into the exact same problem next season if you trade for a rental. And then obviously there's what to do in right field. Lourdes Gurriel is slated to come back soon. Jordan Lawler slated to come back soon. Ryan Waldschmidt's been taking reps in the outfield, as is Tim Tawa. So what do you do there? Lourdes Gurriel doesn't have much trade value. Jordan Lawler has to play as soon as he's back just because of how good he's been offensively for the time that he's been healthy so far this season. Hopefully he can provide a spark and get a lot of reps in center and left field. That would be ideal. And then you have, obviously, your infield is pretty secure, except for we've seen the Ketel Marte Instagram scrub, and he's no longer following the Diamondbacks. I know Torrey said it's nothing, and I know Gambo reported that it's nothing, but anytime that a guy scrubs his Instagram and unfollows a team, that's not nothing, unfortunately. That means that there's something going on. I don't think the Diamondbacks are trying to trade Ketel. I think he's just doing his Ketel Marte thing, and when he's great, he's awesome and he's a fan favorite, and when he's not playing well, and when he's kind of being a diva, which we've seen over the years, like, this is when things can kind of fall apart team wise, and where Ketel, and we've seen it from Ketel recently as well, where the at-bat quality hasn't been as good this season. He's swinging at a lot more pitches outside of the zone. He hasn't been over an 800 OPS this entire season. He has had some hot stretches, but he's also been following up those stretches with some really, really cold numbers. He's only been batting .214 in the month of July. So there's something there with Ketel Marte. I don't think he gets traded, but definitely seems like there are some underlying issues there, both on the field and off the field, whatever those may be. And then you've had Corbin Carroll struggles. Perdomo has not played very well and has not hit very well at the plate. He's been piling up the walks recently this month, but he still hasn't been able to hit for power very well, though we did see him hit a home run on Sunday. And we did see him hit and score a run yesterday as well. But for the most part, Perdomo hasn't been who we've needed him to be this year. Gabriel Moreno's been incredible so far. We've seen guys like Max Kepler and Nolan Arenado, they're starting to to get hot, and they've been hot over the month of July. Same with Tim Tawa. But ultimately, the Diamondbacks have a number of holes on the roster that they'd all have to plug in order to compete for a championship. Now, some of those will be filled by guys coming back from injury. Jordan Lawler should be a guy that plays every day when he gets back. Obviously, Corbin Burns, Ryan Nelson, Michael Soroka. When those guys come back, if they ever come back, that's a great, great, great boost to your starting pitching depth. Or if you do go out and trade for a starting pitcher, then maybe you bring back Ryan Nelson and Zach Gallen If those guys get healthy, you can bring those guys back in reliever roles and give the bullpen some length and some high end and some high end relievers as well. So maybe that's where the Diamondbacks decide to go, but there's a lot of holes on this roster that they need to fill that they need to fill, and they need it to be filled soon, like at the trade deadline and not at the end of August when all these guys come back for injury, because by then it might be too little too late, because you might have another 10 to 12 starts from these young pitchers and from these guys coming up from AAA like Tyler Locklear and Tim Tawa and Ryan Waldschmidt, where they're talented and they could become really great baseball players in the future. And maybe we'll see the major league reps that they've gotten this season. Maybe it'll pay off next season and down the road. But if the Diamondbacks want to win this season, there's too many holes on this roster right now for them to be able to compete for a playoff spot at the end of the season, in my opinion. And do I hope I'm wrong? Yes. But do I expect the Diamondbacks to make the playoffs at this point in time because of what they've shown against teams like the Nationals and the Pirates so far? I do not. Now, could the Diamondbacks go on a 2-game win streak against the Pirates, win 2 out of 3 versus the Guardians? They're back up into the last wild card spot. They're a game behind the Phillies. They've put 2 games of separation between themselves and the Pirates and the Nationals. They could absolutely do that. And then on Sunday, Mike Hazen goes bye, and he puts a lot of prospects on the table. He goes out and gets a starting pitcher. He goes out and gets a good reliever to help the bullpen. He goes out and gets a first baseman. Could he do those things? Absolutely, he could. And if the Diamondbacks do, it puts them in a great position to compete for a wild card spot. But then, starting on Monday, they'll be playing the Padres and the Dodgers, 2 division rivals. They should be able to handle business against the Padres, but they'd have to at least split with the Dodgers to just keep pace in the wild card race. I mean, they're going to have to win some tough games. And if you look at their schedule in August, just a few of the teams that they play in August, it's pretty loaded. They play San Diego, who's competing for a wild card spot. They play the Los Angeles Dodgers. Then they get to play Colorado, which will be a good reprieve after playing the Dodgers. But then they have 3 games at Atlanta, 3 games at Boston, 2 teams that are in the playoff picture right now. Atlanta's a top 3 seed right now, and Boston's played their way into a wild card spot. Then they play Cincinnati, who they should beat, but then they play Chicago at home at Chase Field, and against the Cubs team that's the top wild card spot holder. Then they have 4 games at San Francisco, and then they start a home series versus the Phillies Monday, August 31st. So you play the Phillies, the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Braves, and the Dodgers and the Padres all in the month of August. And if you don't fill all the holes that you have at the trade deadline, I'm not picking the Diamondbacks to win a series against the Dodgers and the Braves and the Red Sox and the Cubs. So it's going to be tough when you look at that and you say they play and the Guardians too, right? So if they lose to the Guardians, they lose to the Dodgers, they lose to the Braves, they lose to the Red Sox, and they lose to the Cubs, and that means they only win 1, 2, 3, 4 series out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series. So that puts them at a below 500 record, most likely. If they lose to the teams with better records than them or ahead of them in the standings, and they beat the teams that are below them, that's still a below 500 record, and that won't get you into a position to be in the wild card hunt in September when guys like Corbin Burns and Ryan Nelson are slotted to come back. So, is this guy falling for the Diamondbacks? Not necessarily, but as optimistic as I was heading into the weekend, I've exited the weekend feeling like this Diamondbacks team is again going to miss the playoffs for the third consecutive season. They're a middling 500 team. We have to accept them as that, even though we feel like there's a lot more talent on this roster than that. We just have to accept this team for what it is, and it's a 500 baseball team when it's not fully healthy.